I got a letter from a listener, an email saying, "Hi John, I was watching the magic faraway tree the other day and admiring yet again how people in the UK and US seem to have a magically long summer vacation, how important this is culturally. It made me despair at our South African system. My feeling was our summer holidays for school kids have been whittled away over the years, and I was right. 20 years ago or so, South African school kids had about a 7.5 week summer holiday. Now they get only 5 weeks. And I can't see the name of the person who sent me the email. My apologies for that. But did some research. And there are a number of countries that have round about 200 school days a year. South Africa, Japan, Denmark, Italy, Australia. But of those, South Africa has the shortest main break at 5 weeks. Japan has 6, Denmark has 7, Italy has 12 to 13, Australia has 6 to 7. And then you get a whole lot of countries that have 190, mid 180s, and they have 6.5 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 to 11 weeks main break. And I wondered how that fits into how education works in South Africa. Esme Van Deventer joins us now, educational anthropologist on the line from Johannesburg. Esme, good afternoon. I mean, we have one of the worst schooling outcomes per rand of scholar spent in the group of countries that are economically the same as us. Do you think that the number of days we're in school, the relatively short summer break by comparison with many other countries, plays any kind of role in that or in anything?
Hi. Yes, I think it definitely does play a role, especially if you look at like developmental stages of kids and how kids actually learn. There's a lot that we can learn from having longer vacations or how we group the vacations and the holidays versus dispersing them throughout the year.
What would be optimum, do you think?
I think it's an age group variant. So I think the younger the kids are, they do need more free time, more free play, and we can see how that's being eaten into in their actual school day. So vacation becomes even more important for those children. So those ones would be, your standard typical, using the example of the listener that wrote into you about a summer vacation. That's ideal across the board, where you can start to see the children, their knowledge then crystallizes over those holidays, so that when they do come back to school to start the new year, they're revived and they're fresh, and the stuff that they'd learned the year before is sort of solidified in them as people.
I don't know what the total number of holidays is a year in the countries. That my correspondent didn't identify that. But if you take the three, so the first break is relatively short. The mid-year break is longer. Then it's short again, and then it's 5 weeks. And I wonder, I mean, is that the way to do things? To take, say, a total of 10, 11 weeks of holiday and divide it up, if not completely equally, then not too differentially over the year. Because, I mean, some countries have a 2-3 month summer break and then have very little break in the other 9 months of the year.
I think, and again, this is where it becomes more of a systemic issue, because we have to look at industry too. So industry doesn't afford all of these holidays for parents and childcare. So I think number one, we can't separate that. We still have to keep that in mind a lot with parents who are working and the amount of leave that they can get. So I want to say that these sort of holidays that have been dispersed throughout the year is to make accommodations for that. Because as soon as you start heading into territory where the kids have, 3 months summer holiday, it becomes a childcare problem, and who's looking after the kids. But again, from a developmental perspective, we need to definitely start thinking about this more in how we are designing our schools and our school terms, because there's a lot of research coming out of this, or what this kind of holiday can do for a child, or not just holiday where they're sitting around playing on their Xboxes or PlayStations or cell phones or whatever, but sort of more structured things like summer camps, what that develops in the children too. So I don't want to take the easy way out and say there's all these different things we need to think about, but it is important. We can't just choose one and assume the others are all bad.
Yeah, and that issue of childcare is such a big reality for very, 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 very many South African households. I mean, Middle class people are either have a permanent domestic worker, a nanny type who stays at home and gives some level of supervision, or they have the money for the holiday camps and so on. But the vast majority, I would think, of families that have school children are poor families. And what do you do? So, yeah, to design a holiday system that takes into account the economic inequalities in South Africa, we have to accept that that's not easy.
Yeah. And I think the bigger question in all of this is what's happening in our school days, because you can have 200 days of school days and think, oh, wow, the kids are being, productive. But a lot of the times it's busy work, and it's this compound effect where it's not necessarily that the kids are learning anything. They're just being, for lack of a better word, being babysat. And this is the thing that I think South Africans and South African parents need to start querying more with our system is, it's fine to have these 200 school days, but what is being done in those school days? Are the little grade R's and the grade 1s getting enough time at break to play and to socialize? Because those are very, very important, So instead of having like 20 minutes here, 15 minutes there, they should be getting at least, 2 to 3 hours to play, but structured playtime. And so I think it's the design of the actual lesson days at school that needs to maybe be relooked at, where holidays can feel a little bit like a distraction.
Are you still there? You sort of seem to disappear. Yeah, okay. It's very difficult to separate out the functional realities of how people live. But if one is prepared to do that and say pedagogically, the best way to teach a child is to teach a child over a period of 270 days and then give that child 90 days off. Is there any evidence about the pedagogical impact of breaks and how long those breaks should be optimally?
Yes, there's a lot of research being done on those breaks, and again, it comes down to your age group. And so this is why typically in any school, you'll see, foundation phase, they either have longer breaks or more, time between sort of their learning to go and play, to learn, versus in high school where it's just you moving from lesson to lesson to lesson. And so I think for the most part, this is being done with, to try sort of keep that going. But I think as our country has gone through what it's gone through and as it continues to develop, these are the things that start to sneak in. So now, even if you look at the Bella Bill, that's being proposed now for grade R, the amount of playtime that's being afforded to kids is not, I don't think, in my professional opinion, is enough. And in any sort of foundation phase school in the country, I really think kids are really being disadvantaged when it comes to the amount of time in a school day that they're allowed to play and have structured play.
Thank you very much, Esme Van Deventer, educational anthropologist. Plenty of food for thought there, I think.